So I was on the radio station, was it 2 or 3 days ago, Tony Bennett. And towards the end of the radio show, a former disgruntled board member busts in, and he is, just disruptive, what have you. The host is saying, you need to leave now. Finally, he leaves. We wait a few minutes, and then he said, let me walk you out, because that was crazy. We walk outside, and my loaner car is covered in feces. We don't know if it was human or dog feces.
Crazy.
Yes. So we had to file a police report. So now I'm at 3 and counting. 3 police reports, 1 restraining order, and 1 cease and desist. And this is ridiculous. And this has been going on for the last, few months now, right?
Yeah, what's crazy about it, too, we've only been in this position since January. We're talking about 10 months.
Yeah.
This situation has turned into like this. I got a sister and a mom, too. It's like, this is domestic violence. It's like that. This is that stuff that punks do to women.
Yeah.
That I grew up watching, too, in the CD. I've seen this. I've seen it with my own eyes. And the only way to combat that is, shine a light on all that and let the people be known that, this is not right. Other black women know this is not right. So it's kind of like to even accept it. And if you don't like her, doesn't matter. If I see somebody getting abused, you're supposed to step up, especially if you guys are other black women. As a black man, that's what I do also. But to see other black women kind of co-sign on some of that, it's kind of weird.
And these are black men that were in leadership positions, and they're looked upon. Talking about, there's one in particular talking about putting his foot on my neck, kicking my A, and he's jokingly saying this, and people are buying and signing on to this and laughing, and making references to Harriet Tubman and talking about, we need to shoot the ones that don't, and Sadiqa Sakin is the one that's not about community. I mean, just craziness. Calling me a dog on the radio show, like a puppy walking around. I'm a tool. I didn't have the common sense to run an organization, so she was the only one out there, so that's what we had to go with. I mean, just foolishness. And these are black men that call themselves leaders in this community. I've been harassed. Someone shared my my cell phone number on social media, so I'm getting outrageous calls. I'm being called out my name. I mean, you name it, I'm dealing with it in this, in this setting, and it's ridiculous. I'm thinking, okay, I have a loaner car now. This is the second one. So the first one, they put feces on it. I had to take it back to the dealership, and now I have another car. My car in particular, my own car, it's been in the shop for 3 weeks now, and we don't even know what's wrong with it. There's so many things that have been coming up. So that's also going to the police. So now there's a detective that is monitoring all of this, because this is ridiculous behavior. It's harassment and it's abuse. I've had to go to Facebook to ask them to stop allowing this kind of behavior, and it's still going on. It's just beyond disrespect. All because we put on an audit. We're trying to clean something up and make a difference. I mean, we're doing the work, and so you're going to personally attack and smear me. And I'm just so surprised at the level of women that are co-signing on this. And, this is blatant abuse. And it's like you wouldn't want this for your daughter or your sister or even your mother. So why are you co-signing and justifying this? And, some of the women, I'm just surprised. Some of the women I know. And it's, before it was queen, beautiful, you're this and that. And you're co-signing on this foolishness, a black man speaking ill and being disrespectful and abusive to another black woman. And I just can't believe it.
We walk into it as a board. Our job is to basically understand where we're at, like I said before, and then move forward. We weren't able to move forward because as we're trying to figure out what's going on, we kind of discover certain things that don't have any rationale behind it, no documentation. So we have to ask questions. And the more questions we started asking, we started realizing, wow, this is a lot of stuff that we can't hold on to. We got to pass this on. And as the board actually voted for it unanimously to have it go to investigation. So we're not going to be holding the bag basically of all this crap that was before us.
Right.
And so really our job was just to do that. And it is interesting that it's all coming out. Like, we've only been for 10 months, and the amount of stuff that she's been subjected to personally, and the group as a whole has been really crazy. And I've gotten phone calls from people where they're like, dude, you guys must have touched on to something that's going deeper than whatever. I'm like, dude, that's not even our role. We're not really caring about that. I tell Sadiqa all the time, my job is not to put people in jail. I don't really care about that. That's not what I'm doing. My thing is, I decided to help the community at another level, like I've always done, and to come into an environment like this is crazy. But I'm still here. I told myself, I'm gonna at least give it a year to help her get to a certain point and always reevaluate. And I think we're moving in the right direction. But we have faced a lot of BS basically. And I think people might be scared. And it, for whatever people do in the dark, it does come to light. And it's not my job to bring it to light. In fact, we've already let it go. Like there's nothing else we have that coming and attacking her doesn't make any sense because it doesn't stop.
Because it doesn't stop anything. Even if I step down tomorrow, it's still going to go forward. So, if you're not about progression and actually moving the community to something positive, go somewhere and sit down and close your mouth and stop all this unnecessary foolishness. And it's becoming, it's just taking a toll because it's unfair. I mean, let's just be real. We have had black men in this position for years doing the work. We've had engineers, we've had entrepreneurs, we've had school teachers, we have had attorneys. We've also had someone that, served some time in prison. I'm a black woman, an entrepreneur, and the first Muslim woman ever in this organization. And I have to deal with this BS. Wow. And excuse my language because I always got to be presidential, but I'm sick of it. Yeah. I'm sick and tired of it. And so my thing is, this is what I have had to endure trying to do the right thing. And so at the end of the day, everybody knew what was going on in NAACP. There were whispers. Nobody was doing anything about it. And so someone is stepping in trying to make some real change. And you guys are acting this way, trying to run them off. With all of these allegations, smear campaign. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother now. I'm just like you. Just because I'm not sharing everything out there, my personal life, it doesn't mean I'm not a human being. And no one deserves to be bullied. No one deserves that.
We had on our board 20-some board members with one of the guys was a Harvard, he actually went to school with Obama. He's a Harvard-educated dude who was our legal redress.
Prosecuting attorney. Former prosecuting attorney.
Him, political action people, high-level folks at the board who all decided that we need to have an internal audit. It wasn't like my decision.
We're talking about the stipend.
But the internal audit, but also the stipend situation is all kind of related. It's like she's doing the work. She has these bills, and I see them because I see the financial transactions like, gas here, going back and forth to Olympia, meetings here, trying to have a lunch because people have to eat. Yeah. And so you start looking at that, like the board said, okay, a stipend makes sense. We're not talking about thousands of dollars. Right. We're talking about $1,000 and pay for a cell phone bill.
And keep in mind, I took a year off from work. I run a consulting firm, and I work with organizations to build them up. So that is my livelihood. So I've taken a year off using my savings to try to rebuild and rebrand this organization. And so that's a sacrifice. And so, yes, the board was like, there's no way that you can do this for free. You're already volunteering your expertise and services. There's no way. We can reimburse you for the gas that you're using to building the organization. And that's what it is. So it's not, money for me to go and get my hair and nails done. It's like, come on now. Really? No, that's not what this is about. And it's all documented. And so people know what we're doing with the funds. So it's like, cut it out. Cut out the games. And that's why we have to change it. It has to go into the 21st century, or the reality is the organization is not going to survive. There's no way that you can have an organization doing this much civil rights fighting and work day in and day out on a volunteer basis. That's just not realistic. You have to have a board with the board chair. You have to have an executive director because someone has to continue to secure the funding. You need to have a legislative director. Somebody needs to be at the top level checking all the bills and laws that are coming down. And then you have to work together. You have to have a staff. There's no way to do all this on volunteer with, the capacity. Our goal this year or this administration is to advocate for the clients, to educate, to protect and build. We can't do that realistically on a volunteer basis and successfully, make someone whole again. Because, we're trying to do this on volunteer and we're broken. Yeah. It's broken. Yeah. So it has to change. And people have to understand that. It has to change.
Some of this comes from people who are on the board and they were actually at the table. Like if I actually listed out the people that voted, you can actually see all of them voted to have an internal audit done. All of them voted to have a stipend.
Yes.
They had contracts that went to for PR. They all voted on that, and then they later turn around and be like, "Oh, what is this money for?" Like you were at the meeting, you actually had a vote at this, and so I've kind of been on the backside being silent about some of that, but it's really laughable because if I actually presented, this is the board meeting minutes. Yeah. Your name is right there. If I presented, she got a stipend, but you also got reimbursed for stuff that you were doing. Because I wrote the check. I know that. Yeah. But I'm not going to go out there and post a check and show in public this is what you got. We pay for PR. substantial amount of money for PR because they're trying to rebuild a brand.
And we voted on that. Nothing is I make a decision and then I run with it and then I tell the board later. It's never been that. It's been a team. There's no big I's and little U's. It's a team, and it's always been a team, with us, and everything is discussed with the board. So there's no lack of transparency. So the narrative that is being put out there it's just a blatant lie. It's a smear campaign. And, it makes me wonder, is there something that we haven't realized yet that we uncovered? Wow. Because we're being personally attacked for no reason. And this has come out of the blue. If these people really wanted to know what was going on with the NAACP, all they had to do was give us a phone call instead of putting it on social media and trying to make a scene. It's just gaslighting, and it's unnecessary.
And just to add to that too, if you have people that were being part of the NAACP before, I personally was trying to look for financial records from before, and I couldn't find anything. So it's like, so you're actually upset that we're doing
and
the job that we're
databases
supposed
were
to do.
Erased. Information was erased. The president's documentation in the database, it was deliberately erased. So I didn't know what contacts. I didn't know what partnerships. I didn't even know what grants were coming in and what the money was used for. I didn't know anything. They left us with nothing. And so when I'm in the community, I gave your organization $20,000 last year. I'm like, okay. I have no clue. Wow. Because there's no documentation to tell me what happened. So you're absolutely right. We needed to have an audit. And you're absolutely right. It's a problem and it needed to be turned over. And so we're doing the right thing. Because at the end of the day, when we leave our succession plan, we want to give this off to the next generation so we can keep it moving forward so it'll last actually another 110 years.
Yeah, I'll just look at it like I've been around. I've seen how things operate in general. And sometimes we operate like mom and pop style. And, we've watched a lot of our black businesses around here that we love to support. And we're like, man, if they had to just put a little effort in, they could still be around right now. If you look at the gentrification in the community, it's like, man, maybe we should have bought grandma's house. Maybe we should have bought a house instead of spending all that money on this and that. Not blaming anybody, because I know there's racial stuff behind that too, and that we all know about. Yeah. But there's things that we can do to better our situation. This organization, I'm new to it. I don't have the deep history of what the NAACP is about. I grew up around here, but I didn't know what they were about even as a kid. And I know that people involved have goodwill towards it, and there's people that really want to see it grow, and there's other people that are just happy for it to stay at a mom and pop level because maybe they have more control that way. But Seattle's growing at a fast pace. We need people to build, and it takes multiple disciplines. It has to be a bigger board membership. They only had 300 plus
398
members.
Originally.
For an organization,
we brought it to 1298. And so we need a younger audience.
Within that 10 months?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And so it's that, but not only that, right now, Referendum 88, that's bringing affirmative action back to Washington State. That's going to be on the ballot in November. Instead of gaslighting and doing all this foolishness of defamation of character, use that platform to do some good for the community. We bring affirmative action back, then I can go down there and demand the city and the Port of Seattle and all these places to give jobs to communities of color and contracts. Yeah. We can't get that if we don't have, it's a continuing fight and struggle. So instead of trying to gaslight and throw all this negative foolishness out here, why don't you jump on and support organizations that are actually doing the work out here and do it? If you don't want to support us, that's fine. Then go to an organization that's actually doing and highlight the positives. Get out to vote so we can get this 45 out of office. Get out there and talk about the census so we can actually be counted. So when it comes down to dollars that are coming for education programs and scholarships and early learning programs, it can actually go to communities of color where it's supposed to go. I mean, come on now. All of these things that are going on in this frame is the 10 years. We got redistricting, we got the affirmative action, we have the census. So you have to understand this is very crucial and important time right now. And so I can't express that enough. You're going to look up in the next 10 years, we're focusing on foolishness. Oh, let's try to trash this black woman who's in a position of leadership, the oldest civil rights organization out here. Instead of allowing her to do her work and supporting her, we're going to give her some pushback and negative press so people won't listen to her when she's trying to talk about affirmative action. She's trying to talk about bringing businesses and black jobs. I'm trying to partner with the union so I can actually get some contracts for our people. Build, educate, inform, advocate. These are the things we're trying to do. And so I don't have time for this. Go sit down somewhere and allow me to do the work. I'm not going to do it the way you want to do it, because the way you did it 15 years ago, that worked for you. And that's great, brother. Now allow me to do something different and bring actually some change and use this vision and take this to the next level.
I recognize everybody's at different levels. I'm trained to be where I'm at, and I have a background in that. And people before me, whoever did the job before, I'm sure they're smart and they're capable, but I do see the pressure if that person was trying to do the best they could. In that environment that I was witnessing with a lack of documentation, not having certain controls, it makes your job really difficult. My job's been really difficult because I've had to deal with all the past stuff and then still keep up what we're doing here and then implement new 21st century banking relationships with Seattle Credit Union.
Yes.
I'm there all the time speaking to them about what can I do, and I'm learning from them so we can be better because they have the experience to help us to go to another level that we're not at right now. I mean, we weren't there when I first started here, but we're so much further than we were before. I mean, I've already given, it's 10 months, I've already given like 6 or 7 financial presentations, and it's like to hear that they haven't heard anything in the whole period of time. Like, where were you at? You were sitting in the room.
Were you sleeping?
And I have proof of all this, but it's like I don't need to keep defending myself on that.
Right.
But at the same time, if people are really concerned, come to the meetings.
Yes.
Come to the whatever we have going on, come show up and bring some positive opportunities to grow. But what I'm watching is that it reminds me of, like, in a way, like how Obama came in and Congress is so bent on making sure he had no positive success, because if that person can shine, then that means things are going to change. Mm-hmm. And maybe people just don't really want things to change. But Seattle's changing anyway, regardless if the old guard cares about it or not. I have younger friends that they're like, these guys are ridiculous.
Yeah.
This makes no sense. And in fact, they're calling me up on a regular basis. What are they scared of? Because they must be scared because nobody acts like that in the public to do something like that. And a lot of stuff they're doing in the public is actually like, these are federal offenses you're doing in the public. Like, people go down for, I'm like, dude, you don't want that. Nobody wants that. So its reality is just, you had your time, and there's things that you could do in a positive light, but to do what they're doing is just, it's counterproductive. Yes. And as a black man, I'm just like, man, it's kind of a shameful thing, because I mean, I'm not treating my sisters like that, and I'm not laughing about it either. I would check anybody around me that thinks it's funny, because I wouldn't want that to happen to my sister, my mom, my girlfriend, anybody like that, anybody that we know. You don't want to see that. And she's not from here. I get it. We talk about that all the time. She's not from this environment. I am. I'm well steeped in this environment, and I know how we do. I know how we treat people, the bullying. I had to fight all the time as a kid from Spokane coming to the Central District with the crack area and the gangs. I had to fight. So I'm built for fighting, but I'm old enough to know that we're not going to get nowhere fighting amongst each other. Mm-mm. And I'm at a level where I see billion-dollar opportunities coming down the pipeline. I'm at the meetings. I don't share everything with everybody because it's not for everybody. But the ones that want to do the work, man, you need to come on board, because if you're not part of our group, that's cool. Be a part of this other group. But it doesn't mean that because you're a part of that group, I ain't going to like you no more. Right. I'm like water. I go wherever I need to go to help. Yeah. And our community somehow, I know she's not from here. That's cool. I'm from here. Other people from here are rocking with her because we see the mission, we see the opportunity to grow, and she has experience. I mean, she's a really smart lady, and she has a lot of experience, and I try to help her put it out there more. She's not the type puts it out there. Our community, we know you got to show what it is before we even believe it.
For so long, I was always raised, it's about doing the work, it's not about bragging about it.
You're
and
right.
So I would just get it done. Mm-hmm. And I was more of that behind the scenes person. And so now I'm in the limelight. It is difficult to get on camera and say, okay, yeah, this is what's going on, because it's like, okay, I'll just show you what I'm doing, and we'll talk about it later. Right. And so, changing that, it is a learning curve. It is a learning process, and I'm getting better at it. So, sometimes I do get nervous, and, but at the end of the day, I'm very passionate about this. I'm, my grant writing skills, I'm trying to implement pilot programs for criminal justice, for education, for the performing arts, for housing programs for our community. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I've been working on to put together scholarships so we can actually have partnerships with organizations that are saying, you know what, we want to give the money. We definitely want to give the money support, but we want to make sure that our dollars are going to where it's needed. Yeah. And that's what I want to make sure. So when I say, if you give us $1 million, because we will make this a $3 million chapter. Where's my camera? Best believe it's coming, and I'm not going anywhere.
I love that.
So we're going to make this a $3 million chapter, like I started off, and we're going to take this to the next level. And when we're done with this, it might not take 2 years, it might take even longer, but we're going to have an app where you can push, and we can find out what's going on in New York City with the NAACP and some of the initiatives that they're fighting for, so how we can support you there. And we can find out what's going on in Atlanta and Los Angeles and Texas and so on and so forth. And that's what we want to do with the organization. We want to make sure that there is a huge transparency to where the organization is actually the strongest civil rights organization, and it means business. So when people say, okay, the NAACP is coming to talk to the governor about XYZ, they're like, oh, we want to make sure our stuff is in order. Yeah. And in order to be taken as a serious organization, we got to have our documents in order. We have to have our finances in order. So people know that there's no way that they can leak and say, okay, they took a bribe for this or that. And that's what we're trying to do as an organization.
On the personal side, I come from a business background. My mom was Hewlett Packard. I know about multi-million dollars deals being done because I was a little kid at the table watching this happen. So I understand how economic development is coming from the private sector, the government sector, all those, and I work in that environment too. I've also, like I said before, I've worked in an environment where I work with economic development administration, how money gets divvied up into a community. Yeah. I've helped change that whole program from an audit I did a few years ago, saving $100-some million just because money was allocated to areas that didn't need it anymore. And I was like, you need to readjust that and put it in the right communities. I spent a lot of time with the audit group to put that together. And so I had that background. I'm noticing, and I'm aware of all the grants and federal money and things of that nature and the things that people get pretty much in trouble for not having documentation, not having transparency. The basic stuff that I would expect any organization to have walking in, even if it is a mom and pop shop, is to have some basic understanding of accounting. And I'm not saying the people there didn't, but what I was given wasn't up to par what I would expect, especially for an organization that wants to get to a higher level, because you can't receive any funding from the Microsofts or other Bill and Melinda Gates foundations when your stuff is not accurate. I've seen that from the Boys and Girls Club, where we can account for every single dollar, and the metrics were there. And some of the things I've been working with Sadiqa is, what is our metrics? I know before that people have called me up about this, and I know I'm aware too, the police brutality, Carl Mack was great on that. I've benefited from that. Other people benefit from that. But at the same time, it's like, I give respect to the leaders for what they did back in the day, but at the same time, it is a new era. There's new blood. We have to do partnerships a different way, and we have to be accountable to grow to a certain level. We came in, from a number standpoint, $29,000 in the bank account to do all this community work. That's not enough,
right?
And from that standpoint, some money had to be paid to find out where we're at. But I didn't even, like, going back to the stipend, I didn't even take the money just like about 2 weeks ago. I did that work a long time ago. I'm like, I know we're in a situation, so I'll hold off or whatever. But the fact is, I put so many more hours, and it's like I didn't get paid for nothing. Really, and that's for everybody. Everybody's putting all this time in. Even the people that were part of the board before, I still respect the fact they put time in. Yeah. But for them to switch gears all of a sudden and act like they don't know what's going on when they're at the table, when they actually have their voice out there, like I said, that's disheartening. But at the same time, we're here to do the work. It does take a lot of effort, and it does take a little bit more savvy to really operate at a high level. I come from that. The people I'm around right now on the board, they all have that background of being able to be professionals and really look at, it's not about me. It's about my 15-year-old nephew. It's about the ladies in the community. For young women to see another black woman at a high level get attacked, what do they think? So now what's happening and what I see, these dudes are basically gonna make other women want to be quiet, because if they see her getting attacked, why would I want to be a leader and have to take that on? That's like, I'd rather just be quiet, play the background. But I know too many powerful black women I've supported throughout this community that they may not say right now, but they know it's wrong, and they're not stepping up necessarily to say it out loud. But we're going to partner with groups that do want to support people that go through domestic violence or bullying and things of that nature, because it's not just black women, it's a lot of people, men, women, all in between. But it takes a collective for us to fight that internally, in the black community, but also we have to fight the group. We're getting gentrified out of Seattle. So we need to do something.
We're not going to be in Seattle anymore. And we're fighting amongst each other instead of rallying behind organizations that are actually doing the work to stop this. I mean, and they're laughing at us. Just like what they expect. Oh, they can't get together. They can't unify to do anything. We don't even have to worry about that. Well, just keep watching us. We're still moving. Support us when you can, whatever that looks like, and let's just get the work done. Let's stop all this catty foolishness, and let's just start focusing on what needs to be done. I mean, if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my part is just a little different, because I'm a black man from this community, and I'll be damned, if this keeps on continuing. It's not like I need to go out there and fight, fist fight, and all kinds of stuff. But for the reason of having all these strong black men that I know personally, that we've all grown up in the same environment, to even know that a sister, even if you don't know her per se, you don't even like her. Like literally, you're watching somebody get beat up across the street, and you're just walking by like, oh, she'll be cool, she'll be all right. And I'm just like, nah, you got to stop and say something about it. You got to protect that person. But it's not just her. You're protecting your mom, your sister. My family's gone through abuse. Everybody in our family's gone through something, from my grandma down. You know, I've been bullied and that kind of stuff. So it's like, this is not just about her per se. This is a bigger picture that you got people doing this to a group of women. She represents one person herself, but I mean, she actually represents thousands and millions of women that are going through this. And I just thought it was ironic that this is Domestic Violence Month.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing all this stuff. People from New York and DC are hitting me up like, Ed, what's going on over there? This is crazy. Why is she going through this much? And they know me, but it's like, it doesn't matter who she is. Why is she going through that? That's kind of, you know, so for me, my end thing is just, as a black man, it's kind of crazy to see us doing this to black women in our community, regardless if you're born in Seattle or not. And for the brothers that I know, it's like, step up to the plate, squash all the stuff that's being said, come to the meetings. Yeah. Come to the meetings, because I got a lot of smart people. Yeah. Come to the meetings, lend your expertise.
And just imagine if this was a white woman and she was being attacked by the black community, what would have happened? I'm just curious.
Right.
You know, how many people would have rallied behind her and got something, you know, made it stop? And that's what we need to do. We need to stop this. And if it's not just me, if it's someone else, we need to stop this in our community. Stop the infighting and actually try to do the work, get the work done.
That's right.
And
that's
that's
what
what
it's
it's about.
Work to be done.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
I need help too. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
I can't do. Everybody has a full-time job per se, except for her. She's actually wearing a hat of 3 different actual people.
Oh, I'm about to start going.
You know.
I'm going to go back to work.
But it's just a lot of work for everybody. And it's just one of those things where resources, we need intelligent people coming.
Yes.
We don't necessarily, I mean, money's great, but sometimes your ideas and effort can help us go even further.
Absolutely.
And that's what we really need.
Absolutely.
So.
And thank you for having us on it. It was an honor to be here, and we'll love to come back.